What's going on, everybody? Leo Cannell here with today's Seven Figures Club podcast. Today, my friends, we've got an amazing guest for you. We've got my friend, entrepreneur, real estate investor, and expert at so many ways to create multiple streams of income. We've got McKay Vowls on the Seven Figures Club podcast. And today we're going to delve into some very fascinating topics. He is only 32 years old, and he and his wife, Cammie, have built an empire. They built up a business, were able to have an exit. They built a lifestyle investor dream where they now live in Costa Rica, where they surf, the awesome waves of Costa Rica. They've got their family there. They travel around the world, and they've done it in such a smart, entrepreneurial, passive income, multiple streams of income type way. So we are super excited to have him today. You're going to want to take some notes, and you're going to have a lot of amazing aha moments. So make sure you listen in. McKay, welcome to the podcast. There are over 32 million businesses in the U.S., and over 90% of them will never break seven figures in annual sales. So how do we as entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs break into that seven figures club? This podcast will relentlessly share the secrets, strategies, and tactics I've used to create 3 multi-seven figures businesses and bring in even more successful entrepreneurs than me to share their inspirational stories and tactics to success. You can create your dream business and life right now. So buckle up and let's go.
Awesome. Thank you, Leo. So excited to be here, and I'm glad we got the opportunity to do this. We tried to do it once before and it didn't work out. And super stoked to be here.
We did, and we're super blessed to have you. We were trying to do this a few months ago, but you guys were busy making that move to Costa Rica and taking advantage of a lot of different things that you guys wanted to do and creating a lifestyle and really a lot of amazing learning experiences for your kids. And you've got the soccer team down there in Costa Rica. So just so you guys, audience has a little better understanding. So McKay's son Colin and my son Marcus were on the same premier soccer team. And so for the last few years, we've gone to tournaments and been all in with soccer. It's an annual thing, literally year round. And so got to know him. And the amazing thing that I think a lot of people didn't know about you, for several years, you were a first responder. You were literally serving the community as a first responder. Sometimes you were doing it in communities far away. And I didn't even realize this whole time you had this massive empire and company that you guys had built, and yet you still just wanted to give. Tell me a little bit about that. That's amazing.
Well, I mean, for the past 15 years, my wife and I, we started with nothing. We got married and started very low income, not a lot of money in savings. And we just worked regular jobs. So I was in the military. My wife was a dispatcher for our local 911 service. And we weren't making a ton of money. And those were just our regular jobs. And the real estate and all the investments, everything was just on the side. And so for the past 15 years, I never left that. I was in the military, went from full-time active duty to part-time. And then when I was part-time, I always stayed with a job. I always had a full-time job as a paramedic, working on an ambulance, and so I'd go work my regular shift, and then on my days off and nights, weekends, sometimes at the fire department, I was building this business and this empire, and we tried to live off all of our income my wife and I made, and then all the money from the business and investments, we just kept doubling down year after year after year.
Well, awesome. Well, hey, thanks for serving. First off, I knew you had served in the military, so that's unbelievable. So the other thing is, like, a lot of people feel like, oh, I have to go to college and get this training, which, by the way, everything you've done really isn't available and up to be taught in college. Yeah. So I guess my first question is, and if you're listening, hopefully you're realizing, like, this is possible for anybody. McKay and Cammie were working regular jobs, and yet they had this side hustle, they had this dream, and I think they were really intentional with how they did it. How did you learn or get started?
My dad had a few rental properties growing up, and so I remember as a kid going to those rental properties and cleaning them, and just some of the tenants would leave horrific messes. And that stuck with me. And my dad was an extremely frugal person, and he owned and ran a successful company. He still does. He's still working. He should have retired years ago, but he just loves the grind, and he loves his business and growing it, and is very entrepreneurial, and has a decent net worth and high income. But yet, if he sees an aluminum can on the side of the road, he'll pick it up and he'll take it home and he'll put it in his bag, and once a year he'll take it and go turn those cans in for money, just because he loves the game of entrepreneurship so much. And so I think I got that from him.
So the first thing I'm going to say is you want to find a mentor, and there are mentors everywhere. Sometimes you don't even find someone that you can talk to. Sometimes it's just someone with an online course. But for McKay, he had a mentor in his father, which is awesome. And so rental properties, different things, entrepreneurship. And I guess where I want to go with this is let's talk about your upbringing. A dad like that, who's an entrepreneur, who's a real estate investor, what type of values and principles did he instill in you that I am absolutely positive have translated into enormous success in your life?
Yeah, I mean, there are good and bad. My dad had an awesome work ethic, and he taught me the value of the dollar, right? And we lived a very meager lifestyle growing up. Even when his business in my teenage years started to become more successful, for years his business wasn't successful, and he just grinded and grinded and grinded. And when it started to become more successful, he was still very, very frugal, and then took that money into putting it back into the business and growing the business, and not spending it on a bunch of flashy things. And then the reverse side of that, I learned a lot of great principles from my dad. But the reverse side of that, and one of the main reasons why at 32, my wife and I pulled the plug on doubling down on growing our business, is my dad missed a lot, right? So there was a lot of soccer games, or a lot of opportunities, vacations or things like that, or time together that I wish I would have had more of. And he was a great dad, and he coached soccer, and he was there and everything. But he was also working so hard that I wish I would have had a little bit more time with him. That at 32, Cammie and I, my wife, said, okay, we've hit this point, and we're comfortable with this dollar amount that we reached and these multiple streams of income. Now our focus shifted from trying to earn another buck to now I want a few more minutes with my kids. And now I want a few more minutes with my wife, and that family time, and those experiences and building those relationships.
Amen. When you're old and on your deathbed, those are the things you'll regret. You'll regret the business you didn't start, but you also regret the business that consumed every minute of your life.
Absolutely.
And took time away from your family and experiences. And especially those are the things that kids remember, right? And so you think back, I wish, I'd been able to go on more vacations with my dad, or spend more time here and there. And that's what people, I think, have realized over the last couple of years with the pandemic, is what's really important at the end of the day. Yeah, it's important to be an entrepreneur and join the Seven Figures Club, and that's the purpose of this podcast. But once you do that, what about a Seven Figures family? What are you doing to create the dream life that you want with your family? And it can't be working 80 hours a week every week for the rest of your life, while all of a sudden your kids are 25 and 30 years old and you can't get that time back.
No, I agree. So. And we did that though. We did. I worked a full-time job, and then on my days off, nights, weekends, for 13 years, my wife and I did those 80-hour weeks. And when it wasn't fun, and we weren't excited to do it, and my wife and I were bickering back and forth, right? It's hard to own a business with your spouse.
Oh yeah.
And those times it got hard, we pushed through and persevered, and we too, our kids during those years, for sure, we weren't as emotionally available as we should have been, or spent enough time with them as we should have. So it took those, we really grew our business for about 13 years. But now, those 13 years gave us this opportunity for freedom now. So, there's that give and take, is when do you want to sacrifice, and when do you call it enough, versus, when do you want to have that, either that travel time or alone time or more time with your family.
Well said. So thinking about some of your first real estate purchases, and when we think of real estate investing, a lot of people think about doing a fix and flip, or maybe they think about buying a 4-unit property and hoping to make some monthly cash flow. What were some of your early real estate investments like, and what were some of your takeaways and lessons from those?
Yeah. Well, I mean, right after high school, I graduated in 2007. And 2007, I graduated and immediately went into the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And this was at a time when both Iraq and Afghanistan were full bore, right? They had the troop surge. There was a lot of troops in both countries at the time. So I immediately went to boot camp, my follow-on infantry training, and then 18, 19 years old, I was on my first deployment to Iraq. I was just a kid. My first deployment, I was 13 months over in Iraq. Which was good and bad. There's some things, that 18, 19-year-old kids shouldn't have to do in combat. But also, when I got home, opened the door for us to go and buy that first property, right? When we got home, you don't make a lot of money in the military, but when you go on these deployments, you have no expenses. And it's usually tax-free, and then you can get some follow-on, some hazard duty pay, imminent danger pay, stuff like that. So 18, 19-year-old kid coming home with $40,000 or $50,000 in the bank, and I look at all my friends who went to Iraq and Afghanistan, and they immediately came home and were out buying Audis and Xboxes and going to the bar and everything. And I took everything I made, and I went and bought my first rental. I just used that as my down payment. This was 2009-ish, right? I was 19 years old, bought my first rental property, 2009. So the market had started to crash, but it had not bottomed out yet.
No, definitely not.
So I bought it, and 6 months later, I was $60,000 upside down. And I thought, this is it. Great, I'm going bankrupt. This was my first investment. This is horrible. Why did I do this? Such a dumb decision. And the biggest thing that I did was just not sell. Right, I was able to at least cover my expenses with rental income and some of my savings to at least ride out that storm for that first few years until I at least broke even again. And it was years until I was at least equity positive, which was stressful because I had no money. Everything that I just made was into that first property, and it just tanked. So that first one was just a simple, small 4-bedroom unit down in Provo, and I just rented to college students. Yeah. And that was the first one.
But I'd say the first lesson in that is, and people in the fix and flip lifestyle and all your Instagram real estate investment heroes who are always, presenting a certain life. Yes, you can make a lot of money on flips, but what you can't control is what the market does,
100%.
Right? You can do your research and get in the right location. So the number one thing I think lesson that you're sharing with us is make sure you've done your research, and that worst case scenario, you can always rent that property out and cover the payments. One of the mistakes I made early on in real estate investing is I was doing those fix and flips at the exact same time you were doing this. And when the market crashed, they were such expensive properties that I had no way to cover the expenses on the property renting it out. And so that's a big lesson. You want to stick in maybe markets under $500,000 or less, especially when you're getting started, to where worst case scenario, you've got a rent payment that can cover those expenses. And if the market crashes, at least you can cover your rent. There's some tax write-offs.
100%.
So, and you didn't panic. I mean, you were certainly concerned.
Yeah.
But you didn't panic, you didn't sell, because you knew the odds were good, you could cover your expenses. And eventually, what happens?
Yeah, I mean, as the market started to turn, that's when my wife and I were dating, right? 2010, 2011 time period. My wife and I get engaged. We plan a big wedding, 8 months out. We're super excited. Life is good. And then I get a phone call. And they said, hey, pack your bags. You're going to Afghanistan in a month. And I said, all right, here we go again. So I
How many months was it?
That one was 13 months
13.
too. So Cammie and I discussed, what do we do? She took our wedding and planned an entire wedding in 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And it was beautiful. She did an amazing job. 3 weeks, we got married. We went down to La Jolla in California, got in the ocean for a few days, enjoyed a few days together. And then, she came and flew home to Utah, and I flew to Afghanistan for 13 months. So our first year of marriage together was less than 10 days. We spent less than 10 days together our first year of marriage.
That is unbelievable. The sacrifice for our country and that you and Cammie made as a brand new married couple is almost makes me cry right now because it's so difficult. I can't imagine how hard that must have been. So you guys got through that. You're amazing people.
Got through that. And she
but we gotta remind everybody, you guys were super frugal and smart.
Because
you're so right. Like, everyone thinks, oh, you've got to be making so much money to be a successful investor. No, you just don't waste money on things that don't make you money.
100%.
And the guys that he's working with come home and they blow it on stuff that doesn't matter, on cars that lose value. Yeah. Instead, you put it in a property, and right then and there, you'd already set up a smart way of living. And Cammie's obviously really good at it too. Because sometimes you get married, and my wife is awesome, actually better at being smart with, not being frivolous with money than I am. But it's so important that your partner or spouse is on the same page with how you spend money.
Yeah, no, and my wife Cammie's very frugal, and she is the reason we were able to take our business to the level that we did. Because I'm really good at having a vision and working hard and seeing the big picture of everything. I'm really bad at details.
She's the operation.
She's the operation. Okay. She's good at spreadsheets and organization and doing the small details day in and day out. And man, you ask me to send an email and I'll forget it 8 minutes later. So, but I got home from Afghanistan, and when I should back up 1 second, when we got married, Cammie had owned a condo. Okay. So she was a 911 dispatcher, and she had gone out and just used the FHA loan, 3% down, and gone out and bought herself a little teeny 3-bedroom, 1,000 square foot condo. So when we got married, right off the bat, we were now at 2 properties, and then everything that Cammie made covered all of our expenses. She, we had old beater cars. We didn't spend, we didn't eat out a lot. We didn't do any frivolous spending that was unnecessary. And then everything that I made in Afghanistan, we just doubled down on saving and investing it. And then once I got home from Afghanistan, from, a few dollars Cammie had saved to everything I made in Afghanistan, we went out. And that year, this was 2000, I was in Afghanistan 2011, 2012. And so in 2012, we came home, market had started to correct, and we went and bought 2 more properties with the money I made in Afghanistan. So now we're, 22, 23 years old, and we have 4 properties.
And those next 2, were they single families as well? Or?
Those were also 4-bedroom townhomes in Provo. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then is the strategy to rent out maybe to a lot of students and kind of student area?
That was our initial plan, was to go strictly students, just because the per room rents were much higher than we could rent entire units to. And so for the first few years, that was the goal. And then we started to branch out and look at different markets. And in some markets, single family made sense. Some market, multifamily made sense. Right. And others, we still, in our portfolio today, we still have quite a few student or individual room rentals mixed in with other properties as well.
So a big lesson that McKay's sharing right there is find a way to be creative to increase your monthly cash flow. If you just buy a regular condo or single family and you just put it on the market to rent it, you may, my desk is going up and down there, you may earn a little bit of money, but it might be pretty limited. So you found a more creative way. If you are renting to students in an area where there's university or college, because you can rent out each room, your total rent amount is much higher than it would be if you rented it out to a family. So that is an ingenious strategy right there. A similar strategy I've seen some success with has been with if you can find properties in the right area for Airbnb or Vrbo, like we just grabbed one in Orlando, and those are areas where you can make really strong returns because the nightly rates are way more than you would ever make, renting the property out on a monthly basis to a family. So amazing lesson there. So now you're up to four units. What's the next step to build? And then this is the company you built and sold too, is that right?
Yeah. So I mean, so we were at 4 units. Cammie was still working her job as a dispatcher. I had started working, as an EMT and then follow on as a paramedic. In college, getting my degree, and then really for the next 8-ish to 10 years. For the next 8 to 10 years, all we did was every 2 years we doubled our portfolio. So
that's unbelievable.
So we took no profits from the business, and so we would let the market go up, let our tenants pay down the mortgage, take our extra cash flow, put it back into the mortgage, and then go from 4 properties to 8 properties, right? Using that 1031 exchange.
Yes.
And then 8 to 16, then 16 to 30. And then once I was about 25, 26 years old, and at this point, still working at the fire department, still working, making $18 an hour with, at this point, a net worth, between 1 and 1.5 million, still driving a 10-year-old Mazda car with 100,000 miles on it. Then people started to come to me and say, hey, how did you do this? Right? How are you 25 years old and you own 20 rental properties? So at that point, that's when I started saying, okay, maybe we should branch out and start a company around this. So then we got our real estate licenses. I went from a real estate agent to a real estate broker, got my brokerage license. We opened a real estate brokerage. We had real estate agents working underneath us. We branched off and started a property management company. And so really from there, 2013 to 2018, we dived into real estate sales. And I would be at the fire department on the phone, knocking down real estate deals. And I was very honest with people. I worked hard. I returned phone calls, and I treated people right. And then people were gravitated towards me because of what Cammie and I had created. And so for 4 or 5 years, we just crushed it as real estate agents. I mean, I think on average during those 4 or 5 years, at any given time, I had between 40 and 60 properties under contract with a full-time assistant working those deals. And then a lot of we would go out and we'd help people, say, hey, we'll just hold your hand, we'll help you build your real estate empire, you use us as your real estate agent, and then we'll give you a massive deal on the back end for property management. So then we'd get them into our property management funnel, give them a deal, right, a break on their real estate management fees for the first year or two. And then man, that's when things really, really blew up, is when our income grew exponentially. And again, we didn't go out and buy fancy cars. We didn't go out and buy unnecessary things. We took that income when I was making $40,000 to $60,000 a year as a paramedic, to now you're making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year as a real estate agent. We took all that money and then doubled down on real estate and now syndications and debt. And so then we started creating multiple funnels of this passive income.
So guys, a lot to unpack there. First thing, let's talk about some of the terms that he's dropping there. 1031 exchange is that awesome, tax law where you can basically sell a property And instead of taking all those profits and paying taxes on them, now you can reinvest it in a similar property. And then what's the time period? It's about 6 months that you have?
So you have 45 days to identify a property, and then you have 180 days to close on that property.
Okay, so for about a month and a half to identify, and then 6 months to close on it. And then you can do that over and over again. And that was super important, I think, in your strategy. Instead of giving Uncle Sam the money, which we don't know what Uncle Sam's going to do with it. He might not always make the greatest choices, but you made great choices, reinvested it in more properties, and continued to double your portfolio every 2 years. And then the thing that was really smart is, okay, we're becoming experts at real estate investment. Well, a lot of other people wanted to follow that path. And so it sounds like that became kind of the client you could help were additional real estate investors. And so then they became real estate agents, brokers, and guys, everybody can become a real estate agent. I mean, it's usually there's a test or two. You can get that license, a little background check, and away you go. And now, as a realtor, you can make really strong commissions, especially if you're a successful real estate investor. Yeah. And then now, instead of giving away that 3 to 6% commission, now you're earning it on your own properties and being able to help a lot of other people buy and sell properties as well. So, and now, what got you guys started in building a property management company?
Well, the property management company came just out of necessity. These clients would come to us and say, help us build a real estate portfolio, but I don't want to answer the phone call at night. And we also saw the writing on the wall that we were getting a little burned out. 80 hours a week, every single week, day in, day out, year after year. The stress, the amount of work, the lack of time with our family was starting to wear on us. 2017, 2018. So we also knew a real estate brokerage as a business is really hard to sell. It's really hard to put a valuation on that because it's so relationship based. And it's hard to get a valuation for that. How many clients are going to stick around? What are sales going to be? Sales are so up and down. So we actually started to tap the brake a little bit on so much sales and marketing. And then 2018 really started to dive headfirst into growing a property management business with the end goal of this is a very easy business that we can throw a price tag on and sell as an exit strategy. And we had the clients, we had the properties, we had the knowledge. So then it was as simple as hiring a team, going out and forming the business. And then, it was awesome. And we had, those first few employees, I apologize to any of them if they were ever listening. It was a little hard. We had never really had a team and full-time employees before. And it was rough in the beginning. But once we worked out the kinks, and when we exited the company, the most amazing staff and amazing employees, and we treated them well and we tried to pay them well, and they really were the ones who grew our business, right? We were the face of it, and I talked to clients and everything, but our employees doing the day-to-day back-end stuff that made us as the owners look good. But I wasn't answering phone calls. I wasn't going and unclogging toilets at 2 o'clock in the morning. It was our maintenance team and our staff that really kind of drove it home for us.
Unbelievable stuff, guys. The first thing I point out with that is when you're building a business, whether it's real estate or whatever, you want to be able to do two things. You want to be able to earn, a lot of money, which you can do as a realtor with some commissions, but it's all dependent upon you. And what makes something valuable in terms of selling a business is monthly cash flow. That's what the sellable asset is. So if you have a business where you just can make some money here and there, okay, great. But if you can have a subscription-based business, if you kind of have a business that earns monthly cash flow no matter what, and it's not dependent on you doing all the work, that's what's going to be much more valuable to sell. So you guys had this great idea. Let's build a property management company. Now we're building additional monthly cash flow, and then you can actually sell that business. Now the big problem a lot of people run into is, well, I know I can trust myself to do the work. Yeah. What was that process like, and how did you guys teach and find great people to build this team for your property managers?
Yeah, I mean, well, we went through a couple not great team members, And part of that was our fault. Our systems in the beginning were really poor. Like it was rough. If I would have been one of my early employees, I would have said, this guy has no idea what he's doing. He's not organized. So it was hard in the beginning. But once we actually got systems in place, we got standard operating procedures, we had things written down, we had ways to handle issues, and it was clear cut for the employees. Then it was the fact of more just finding the right fit. I can teach anybody real estate. I can't teach you to be a good person. I can't teach you to be honest and hardworking and show up on time. So, we went out and more than an awesome resume is we looked for good people. And we hired some phenomenal people, and we really had a phenomenal manager who came on with us for the last 4 years. We owned the company, and it was actually her and her husband who bought the company from us. And so we tried to get as organized as possible, and then B, have you read that book, Extreme Ownership?
Oh, that's a great book.
Jocko Willink.
Great book.
So I tried to adopt that mindset, is everything is my fault.
Yes.
If an employee makes a mistake, it's my fault.
Yep.
And so I went into it with that attitude. And there was a lot of mistakes made, some that cost me a little bit of money, some that cost me a lot of money. But no matter what an employee did, it was always my fault. And I would always take on that burden, and I would always try and fix it and take the responsibility off of them, because they would never do it on purpose. It was never negligent, or they were trying to hurt the company. And so once I adopted that mindset of everything is my fault, and then B, don't micromanage people, I gave them the runway to grow and build. And then I always tried to sit down with them every 3-ish months and just say, how can I help you? How you don't want to work at a property management company the rest of your life. How can I help you grow whatever aspect of life you want to grow? And some of my employees did that. Some of my employees went out and said, oh, hey, I want to go get my real estate license. I want to become an investor. I want to own rental properties. And I said, great, let's do it. I'll help you. And some of our employees did that. And now they own 2 or 3 rental properties and are killing it. And other of my employees said, nope, I want to show up every day. I want to do my 8-ish hours, whatever that is. I want to go home, and I want a paycheck every 2 weeks. And I said, great. If that's what you want, I'm fully supportive on that. And if you want more, I'll help you. So it was different, But I honestly think what it came down to is, like, I cared deeply about each one of my employees, and I wanted the best for them, and I wanted to do whatever I could to help them. And in turn, man, they worked hard for me, and they grew our business to a level that I never could have done it by myself.
Unbelievable. Again, a lot to unpack there, guys. He just dropped so many value bombs. First thing I would say is you've got to get the right people on the bus with your company, right? If you have the wrong people, which sometimes you have the wrong people and sometimes it's your fault too, and that's huge too, being accountable as the business owner, but you've got to have the right people who share your values and principles. If they don't share the work ethic, if they don't treat tenants and your customers and your clients right, then they're not a good fit, right? So you've got to find the right people, and there needs to be values and principles, and it seems like you guys really built those out. And then the second part is the mechanical. All right, if this problem happens, what's our policy? What's our standard operating procedure? You hear about SOPs. That's what it stands for, standard operating procedure. When this problem arises, this is what we do. So it's kind of twofold, finding someone with the right values and principles that shares what's important to you. And then number 2, now what are the mechanics? What are they supposed to do when this problem occurs? When this concern comes up, how do they resolve these problems? And then the third one on there that was absolutely huge is leaders. And how did you guys know that you found leaders, and what did you do to help them lead?
I think being a leader, and I would revert that back to a lot of the stuff I learned in the Marine Corps and as a young NCO, and especially you're a 22-year-old kid and you're getting put in charge of other human beings' lives in combat. There's no better leadership school than that right there. So I learned a ton of leading others in the Marine Corps, and I had a ton of leaders above me that I learned a lot from, good and bad. And I probably learned more from the bad ones than I did some of the good ones. And so I just remember that feeling of being micromanaged. I remember that feeling of not being trusted. I remember that feeling of, am I going to do this project? Is it going to be good enough for that person? And so every time I'd have those leadership experiences, good and bad, I just try and put them in my little toolbox and build my leadership, repertoire, and then take that and then develop those leaders or employees underneath me. And then also there was things my employees were doing that I was taking from too. They would say something or suggest something, and I would have a totally different thought process or thinking, and I would have to have the humility to say, no, you're right. Like your way is way better than my way.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this for 10 years and you've been doing this for 6 months. So that's embarrassing that you have a better, procedure for this, but let's do it. And then I would empower them. And then that would hopefully give them the courage to, when something was going on, they'd speak up and say, hey, maybe we should do it this way. And sometimes I'd say, yeah, let's do it. That's actually a really good idea. And other times I'd be like, no, let's do it this way. Because sometimes with that lack of experience, they didn't understand some of the other things that were going on, right? They didn't understand fair housing laws or city zoning laws or restrictions. And so they say, let's do this. And I said, well, actually, we can't do it that way. It's a good idea, but we can't. Sometimes they'd have suggestions. I say, yeah, that's a rock star idea. Let's do it. And then I think that would empower them to be better leaders.
Well said. So now you're building this valuable asset, this property management company, along with the real estate company. So now how do you sell a business? What's the process like for someone who's trying to build something up valuable,
Yeah.
and then how do you sell it?
Well, I think, one, valuing a company, right? You should get some outside help from that. I had never put a valuation on a company before. I don't know. And you always get emotional, right? It was your baby. You created it. It's worth, you're going to throw out whatever astronomical number you believe your business is worth in your head because it's yours. So, we got some outside help and some attorneys and some merger and acquisition guys that were super, super helpful for us. And then, we started to have the conversation with our employees that, hey, guys, we love you. We love this business, but we have further goals in life. And our further goals don't include running this business anymore. And we were totally upfront and honest with them. There was never a bombshell drop of, oh, owners are gone, new owners are in, and I hope I get to keep my job. And so I reached out to several people in our space, and then we had 3 or 4 really interested, these were colleagues, some who owned property management businesses, some that were interested in getting into the space, all successful, all with net worth easily enough to have purchased the business. But our first option is we went to the manager, our day-to-day girl, who basically had run our day-to-day options for the 4 previous years, and told them, like, hey, like, we're at this point because of you. Like, we had the vision and quest and everything, but the day in, day out, the phone calls, the all the headache and everything really was put on her shoulders. And we said, we're retiring financially, we're at this point to retire financially. And we're selling the business. You guys will have the first opportunity to buy it if you want. And then from there, we lowered the valuation of what the business was worth. We worked out a bootstrapping agreement, right? They cut us a down payment check, and now we get a monthly check for the next 8 or so years. But for us, for Cammie and I, financially, it would have been a way better move to go to one of these other people who had the means to just cut us a check and be done and walk away. But we really loved this employee a lot, And we knew that her and her husband were going to take the company to the next level. They had the fire and drive, and they had the desire, where we had kind of, after about 13-ish years, we're getting burnt out with it. And so, when they said, yeah, we're interested, we were full bore in trying to figure out whatever way we could financially to work it out with them. And so now they're 6 months into owning the company and killing it. It's grown, 10 or 15% in 6 months. They're bringing on new clients. They have some new procedures in place. And now, they own the property management company. They bought the real estate brokerage from us. And now they are our property managers. Now they manage our portfolio of all the real estate we have here in Utah still. And I couldn't be more excited and more proud of them. And some people, I think, might have the mindset of looking at, they took the business and they're going to take it to another level of having that mindset of, oh, wait, maybe I could have done that, or maybe I could have made more money. But we had hit that dollar amount. And for us, we got to the point where another dollar wasn't going to change our lifestyle. Having more freedom is what we wanted.
Absolutely. So now at this point, you sold the company, and now the next step is, now how do you make this money, continue to work for you, right? You can work hard for your money, but when you learn to make your money work hard for you, that's a big difference. And with so many markets of real estate property valuations increasing so high, it seems like it's more difficult than ever to find, good deals. What should, someone who's looking to build a portfolio in 2022 be thinking about, with the markets we're dealing with?
I remember in 2012, I had a client come to me and said, hey, I want to buy real estate. And townhomes at this point were trading for $180,000 to $190,000 in the Utah County area. And this new development is coming on the market, and they were going to start their pricing at $205,000. And they said, real estate is so overpriced. I'm never going to make any money in this. This is ridiculous. How can a townhome be worth $200,000? This is the end of the world. The real estate market's going to crash next week. Just on and on and on and on and on. So I think you have to take the long-term approach. Is it harder to buy real estate in 2022 than it was 5 years ago? Yes, absolutely. Are you going to find another investment, though, where you go out and you ask the bank, hey, will you give me a loan? I'm going to put a little bit of money down, and then I'm going to have somebody else come in and pay off that loan. And then whatever that little buffer is between my payment and what my rent is, I get to keep every single month and put in my pocket. And then at the end of every year, the IRS is going to say, hey, your property actually depreciated in value. Here's some depreciation for your taxes. And so I'm making money. The IRS is telling me I'm losing money. And I have somebody else paying off my bank loan. If there's another investment like that out there, somebody please tell me. So is it hard in 2022? Yes. In 5 to 10 years, are we going to look back and say, man, I wish I would have bought more properties in 2022? Who knows? That's the golden question. And the real answer is nobody knows. If you would have told me in 2009, hey, don't buy this property because in 6 months you're going to be way upside down in it, I would have never bought it. I would have waited 6 months to a year and then bought it when the bottom was. But the fact is, I'm not worried about these mini cyclical changes. Is more of the long term. I'm in it for the long term. My wife and I financially are retired. We live in Costa Rica and we surf every day with our kids, and I'm still actively buying real estate. Right? We have 2 properties under contract right now. As soon as those 2 are going to close, I'm going to go look for my next deal. So is the market high? Maybe. Or maybe it is just what the market is.
What kind of properties right now are you seeing opportunities with?
So I think you still can find opportunities and two, another whole aspect of this that we haven't talked much about is the lending side of things.
Okay.
And so, the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac guidelines on multifamily is 4 units or lower. So there's still a lot of opportunity in that multifamily space. Is your cap rate going to be squozing? Yeah, absolutely. Are you going to get that 7, 8, 9 cap that we were getting, 3 to 5 years ago? No. But can you still find that maybe that 3 to 5 cap? Yeah, you can. So I think there's still space in the multifamily area, that duplex, triplex, fourplex area. And you go in 5plex and above. Now we're talking about commercial lending and a whole different animal. But there's still opportunities in the condos, townhomes range. And then you mentioned it in the beginning, but this Airbnb nightly rental market that is coming is massive. There are a lot of investors who are taking their rental properties off long-term rentals, going in and furnishing them and doing the nightly or monthly rentals, and they're killing it. Some of my friends bought a little single-family home in Riverton, $500,000, old, crappy, like run down, and they went in, they gutted the entire basement, they added a basement entrance, put 3 bedrooms down there, put in some really cute furniture, a cute kitchen, spent maybe $30,000 or $40,000, and we're averaging $4,000 a month on Airbnb. A little teeny crappy rundown house in Riverton, right? They put their down payment down, renovated it, and now we're killing it. So there's opportunity out there, and there's no shortage of people still in 2022 being very successful real estate investors.
And odds are 10 years from now, values will probably be higher.
I agree.
And you'll think, gosh, I wish I'd have gotten in. I wish I'd have taken it. So that the key factor, make sure you get a property that can cover your expenses. And if you can do it in a creative way, where you can do an Airbnb situation or student housing, that's where there's a lot of opportunity. And then last questions here. What about something outside of real estate, or maybe you got syndicates, syndication opportunities? Yeah. What's your thoughts on crypto or the stock market? What do you think?
Yeah. We knew retirement for us was coming. So, and at that point, 3 to 5 years ago, we had 95% of our net worth in real estate. So that's when we started to create these multiple streams of passive income, right? And so we really tried to say, okay, what are going to be our 4 areas of income once we retire? And one leg of our retirement table was the passive income from our rental properties. The other leg was debt, right? So you can either do debt funds, right? There's a ton of these out here, syndications. They'll take your money, group it together with other investors' money, and go out and lend it to organizations or businesses trying to grow or real estate developers. And then you'll get whatever percentage that fund is getting. So we started putting money into these real estate syndications that were debt oriented. That we just don't do anything. We get a check every single month and a report on who, out of all these loans, who paid and who didn't. And then the other ones were, we started looking into equities, just into the stock market, and looking into different ETFs and ETFs that were directed more towards income than growth. So income ETFs, and growing our monthly dividends through the stock market. And then we also get the monthly income from selling our business. And then too, this crypto wave that is coming. I wasn't sold on it completely. I have a lot of friends who were sold on it completely. I was interested enough to get in, to get a piece of everything that is going on, but not put all my eggs in that basket. Because do I believe that in 5 years we're all going to be trading Bitcoin versus cash? I just don't know. I don't know. But I also didn't want to miss this wave if it does happen. So we did get a little piece of the crypto market to see what happens with it, but we're not completely sold that all the financial markets in the world are going to collapse, and we should only trust cryptocurrency to throw all of our eggs in that basket.
Yeah, a lot of experts are saying maybe 5% of your net worth. At most maybe 10% if you're aggressive. But you're right. I mean, clearly there's a big market cap with some of these currencies, and if you can catch one early on that's legitimate, there's a lot of opportunity there as well. Well, McKay, unbelievable. So much value that you've shared with the audience today. How can they serve you? How can they give back to you? How can they help you in any way?
You want to come down to Costa Rica and go surfing with me? I'd be stoked. But yeah, then the next step for us, we don't have our financial goals. We're so blessed and we're so happy with the point we're at financially, and we worked really hard to get there. Our next goals in life are helping people with their health and fitness and mental health and everything. So, we will be opening a new business in Costa Rica in the little town where we live. It's called Ojachal. And so yeah, you can hit us up on Instagram. It's just The Vowls, TheVowles. Connect with us on Instagram. And we can't wait to just help people grow themselves health-wise. Get fitter, get healthier, eat better foods, get more sleep, help their mental health. And so that's what we're really excited about is come down to Costa Rica with us, enjoy the beautiful jungle, the beautiful sunshine, the beautiful ocean and the waves, and eat healthy food and do some fitness with us.
Beautiful, man. We're going to have to take you up on that one and hook up with you guys, you and Cammie, and do some fun stuff. Guys, Costa Rica is amazing. But I think the important thing is a lot of people overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in 10 to 15 years. And to see what you guys have done in the last 13, 14, 15 years is a testament to having that vision, being in it for the long run. And if you do it the right way and you focus and you're willing to put in the work and the effort, the financial freedom is there. The American dream is still real. You can do this. Reach out to McKay. He's very giving on Instagram. And again, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Are you looking for more seven-figure secrets, content, or even how you can launch your own recession-proof business? Then check out sevenfigures.com. That's the digit 7, FIGURES.com, where we share more videos, stories, strategies, funding solutions, entrepreneurial education, and even the secret business type that's recession-proof. Thank you for listening, and if you're finding value in our podcast, please give us a 5-star and invite others to join the club.